Okay, that's wonderful. So welcome back to module 2 of our training. We have a really full program today, which is great. We are going into the really practical stuff of family constellation. I suppose you're really excited to be initiated in the secrets, so to speak. Just a few words, housekeeping before we start. I was thinking about it. We had this lovely workshop. Everybody else, Nam Shakti couldn't come because I think you had babysitting problems, eh? Yeah, well, that happens. But other than that, so everybody was there, and obviously you would have questions, and it would be obviously good to discuss it while we have no time during the workshop to do that. And also I realized that we should have some workshop settings where you can actually practice facilitating towards the end of the course. So I was offering you like 2 or 3 extra meetings where we meet and do and practice facilitating, basically, right? So we will start with the first one after the 3rd module, when you have kind of the family constellation wrapped up, and then one more after module 4 and one more after module 5, and that would be also the opportunity to talk about questions they may came up in workshops in between that you have observed, right? Because we really don't have time during the modules to talk about it, not really, and yeah, so I thought that would be probably a good idea. What do you think?
Yeah, great.
Great.
Yeah? Awesome. And I make sure that we have a better time for Nam Shakti to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, so the technique should be all good. Do you have all good visuals, good audio? I can see everybody quite clean. Tracy's a little bit darkened in the background. And
I brought a light.
Yeah, but it's not shining on you.
But if it's going to reflect off my glasses.
Yeah, I know how that is. I put my light up there above. So if I look up, can you see the light?
Yeah.
But I have it up there. So when I look into the camera, it's not reflecting. I know you learn all this over the time.
I'll keep listening. I'm going to put it up, see if that'll work.
Yeah, try it. And Ali, you were very clear before, but now you're also dark. Oh, yeah. So that doesn't work with you. Okay, good, great. So just quickly check in. How have you been? How is it going with your self-study? We had a little bit of hiccups with the books. So shall we talk about that a little bit before we start? Would you like to share how that was for you the last month after module 1? Yeah, shall I start with Mariella?
Yeah, sure. I'm reading at the moment Love's Own Truth, which I found in Share Slide, which is a website I didn't really know before. I didn't have to download it or anything. It does seem that the website is going to change. It was sold. So in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I may not be able to have the same access. I don't know. But at the moment, it's working for me. And I've read half the book already. So I have a few questions.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Just write them down. Yeah, write in your notebook. Make sure you write all the questions from the workshops, when you self-study, write them down. So when we have a Q&A that we can go through all the questions and you won't forget it, yeah?
Right, yeah.
Okay, and Mariella, you sent an email, which was great. Thanks for that. You said that you have actually borrowed from the library Love's Hidden Symmetries.
Yeah, so the book I showed you in the last time I showed the book. So that was rented from the library. It was borrowed from the library. It actually belongs to Nelson, kind of the Nelson community. Mm-hmm. So, but it can be, if you book it and ask for it in advance, it can be sent anywhere in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You don't pay for the book itself. That's for free. You do have to pay for the courier. So that's $15 New Zealand dollars within New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I was just thinking. I know I normally wouldn't recommend to breach any copyrights, but as I know this book is not in English, it's not available anymore. I think I was suggesting that Ale hires a book now from Nelson and makes copies with a scan, with a photo scanner, and shares this within the group for everybody who cannot get it. Right?
Which
Yeah.
book is it?
Well, the standard, the one you have to read, Love's Hidden Symmetries. Yeah. Now, Shakti, how is it in US? Are you getting hold of literature from Bert Hellinger?
I got a few books. I did. I did spend some money on them. Not much. Well, yeah, more than I should, but I still end up buying some. But I've been watching a lot of YouTube where he's actually there and talking. I'm more a virtual person. I learn more when I see, because I'm Spanglish. So so I learn more when I see, when I hear, than reading out loud. I think it's the language barrier, but
Right.
I think I'm doing pretty well watching his videos. I've been just watching a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's a good thing to do. Okay, who else? Tracy, how are you doing?
I'm reading Love's Own Truths, and I've got 2 other books that I'm in dispute with a company in the States who I ordered and paid for, and they've been lost. So, so I'm still, I've gone to the top and said, can you sort this out? And they're all apologetic, and, you know. So, and one of those books is Love's Own Symmetry. Is that right? Love's Own Symmetry?
Love's Hidden Symmetry, yeah.
And the other one is something else on the list. I can't remember which one it is. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get them eventually. And I've also already read the one that's on Kindle.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's 4. Yeah. So I'm doing
Great.
well.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Okay. Awesome. Kate, how are you doing?
I'm doing terribly by comparison, I guess. I did order the top book on the list.
But not the one for $1,000.
I did pay $200.
Still, yeah.
But it hasn't arrived yet, and I don't expect it to arrive for a few weeks. And I haven't had a chance to look at Kindle. I did check the library and all the bookstores, and there's nothing in Christchurch that I'm aware of. So I'm still at the research, find a book stage.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of looking at it online. I might look at a session or 2 on YouTube as Nam Shakti suggested. So did you just search Bert Hellinger? What did you search?
I did. Well, I went to Google and I just typed his name, and there's a lot of videos that he's speaking. So I'm watching, instead of watching ones that there's other teachers, I'm focusing more on the ones that it's him teaching and him speaking in workshops.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And is he speaking English in the ones that you're watching?
He is speaking English, and he also has a translator when it's another language.
Right.
Because there's ones that it's in German, and he has a translator. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I hadn't even thought about that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I watched the videos. So I reviewed all the material from the course, which I found really useful to do, to just watch the whole thing again. So that was really good.
Yeah. Awesome. That sounds great. Okay. Yeah, I know how difficult it is to source the books. In German, it wouldn't be a problem, but in English, it is really a problem. They don't seem to republish it. You know, once a lot is sold. In English, in German, they do that all the time, but the demand doesn't seem to be as high enough for that. Okay, very good. So let's go into the module today. I do, as always, the screen sharing, and it should work because I tested it just before. Okay, let's see. Module 2, finding what mends. I'm Kate. I have to ask you: is mending a right word?
Yes.
Yes.
Healing, mending. Mending is usually for sewing.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to use the word healing.
Mm-hmm. Mending is fine, I think.
Okay. So what does it mean is that we have 3 stages in the family constellation. The first of all is we can only work with the people that are part of the family system, right? So we need to know the order of love, right? Which we went through in the first module. Then we need to find that what is actually going towards the process of healing, as you said, or helping, or entangling the family dynamics that we see, right? Then that is the next step, right? And then the third step is in module 3 is then all the practical work around that and how we provide the space to do so. So this is what we're talking about. This module is finding all the things, the tools we need in a family constellation to facilitate to actually find that what for the client actually brings the process of healing. Why I don't use the word healing is because, you know, the healing industry doesn't like that too much. So you need to be careful when you talk about, you know, alternative therapies, let's put it that way. If you use the word healing, it's just in general. I would be careful with that. And if you find another word, then it's better, right? If you don't use so much the word healing in family constellation. So we are talking now about, in module 2, about the power of words, with is yes, please, and thank you. But it's not only yes, please, and thank you, because you can use sentences that have the same energy as yes, please, and thank you, right? So it's not only the words. We are going through all the variation, how you can use them in a family constellation. We are looking at the relationship of these words in the order of love. In part 1, we are looking at what I call the order of words, because the words can be used in a certain order in certain relationships. So that we are learning about that. This is why we also learn about the 3 patterns of relationships, right? Because we need to know that in order to apply the words in the right order. We are looking in depth at the word yes, and I will also introduce you to the 3 basic family dynamics in a family constellation. That is what you normally work with. So in every day, today, tomorrow, and on Sunday, we are talking about one of these dynamics. And today's dynamic is I have translated it, so it's probably not the best. It's a reparation for my sins. Or you might call it atonement. Not quite sure what's the better word. Kate, what do you think? What is the better word? Atonement or reparation?
Atonement, but I'm just guessing. Okay. I don't know.
Because when I look at the translator, it says reparation means like an exchange, which is a little bit better.
Right, atonement is forgiveness, really more.
Yeah, atonement is exactly. But anyhow, so we go through it, and then we see what you feel better with it. Okay. Then in part 2, we are going to the next word with this please. We look at the other dynamic, which is called rather me than you, and we are talking about the morphogenetic field. And if we have still time, we are talking about fatal diseases in this tomorrow. And on Sunday, we are talking about the word thank you. The 3rd dynamic, I follow you. We are talking about how to apply words, gestures, eyes, and movements in a family constellation. How we observe them to see the dynamic, and secondly, how we ask the participants or the representatives to use them to go towards the direction of mending or healing, right? So that's our program for module 2. And as you know, now you don't need to write too much like what this is regarded, because you get the video recordings. So that works well. Right, so you can fully concentrate on what's happening here. So the healing power of yes is the title of today's segment. We are talking about the orders of words, yes, the 3 patterns of relationships, the dynamics in family systems, and one of the dynamics, reparation or atonement for my sins. Now the order of words, the power of words. The first of all is why actually have you experienced in your life, and I'm sure you say yes, I just want to involve you in this, how powerful words can be, right?
Yeah.
You're aware of that, right? That somebody can say one word to you and you are down, or somebody can another word and you are totally feel uplifted, right?
Mm.
So we need to be aware that words are very powerful tools to change energies. And we are making use of that in daily life all the time, quite unconsciously, but we are making especially use of it in family constellation. Now, we are using these three words, yes, thank you, and please, in a certain order in a constellation. There are a zillion other words, but if you look at the energy of a word, it is always either yes, please, or thank you, whatever you say. Because whatever you say, it's either agreeing and acknowledging what is, which is a yes, right? Or it is asking for something, which is a please, or it is giving something, which is a thank you, right? So it's always these 3 things, you know. So if you find something else which doesn't fall in the category yes, thank you, and please let me know. We'll be very interested, and we can make it a little quiz. If you think of words, we can see if we can put it in a category here or not, or maybe there's another one. But in family constellation, that's what you need. You don't need to worry about anything else. That's what you need. In fact, if you are looking for complicated words or sentences, you lose your connection to the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field is communicating very clearly and very simple. Never complicated. That is only the mind. You know, only the mind is communicating with complicated or complex. Let's say that. This is why this work, as once it is understood and practiced, comes quite easy. Because it's not complicated at all. And it's also not something you have to think about hard. The understanding is important, and the personal growth to be able to let it all go once you're in the situation of facilitating. That's actually what is important. Okay, so when we are saying what the power of words, we are not only using single words, we are also using sentences. And we call that, the translation calls it the sentences of resolution. I hope that's a good translation. Yeah, makes sense? Okay. I don't know why it says resolution and not solution.
Resolving something, yeah, slightly different. So a solution's like a problem. A resolution is, well, I mean, I guess looking them up would be better, but resolving is more natural.
Okay, good. Then we keep resolution. Okay, very good. So let's go here. The 3 patterns of relationship. So we have that at the order of love. We are thinking about the flow of love. We have basically 3 patterns of relationships. We have relationship between equals, which is the adult relationship we talked about. If you think of the flow of the river, then this is the lake. Yeah. Then we have the relationship mother, father to child, meaning giving and receiving, right? Mother, father is there, and then the water flows down to the children. And then we have the relationship from child to mother and father, yeah, which is a relationship, obviously, although it does, the love doesn't flow upstream, so to speak. But there's still a relationship and there's still love involved, obviously, right? It's just not the way of giving in the same way. So we have to decipher between these relationships to find the right order. So when we start with partner to partner, then if you think of a relationship, it all starts, if it starts with an online dating or at a bar or at the workplace, wherever a relationship starts, it always starts with a yes. I want to get to know you, right? You always start a relationship of some way or the other with a yes. So when you have in a constellation the situation that somebody wants to look at a friend who he or she feels wants to get more intimate involved with, then we are looking for the yes in this partner, right? In the representative of the partner. And if we don't find this yes there, then we know it's not going to happen anywhere soon. So we start in a relationship between equals always with the yes when the relationship begins. And then you come in the relationship into the stage where you are exchanging. So exchanging is always asking for something, right? It's an asking for something to either take my gift or give me yours, or you're asking for something. And this is a please. And you also make sure that you are staying in a relationship with a please. A please is creating a relationship. If you say please to your partner, you want to be in a relationship with the partner. Actually, with everybody else. So if you say please to anybody else, you are in a form of relationship. So first is the yes, because you want to commit to go together. Then the please is the phase in a relationship where you exchange what you have to give and receive, And then down the line, if the relationship comes to an end, because everything has a beginning, has an end, even death would be an end, like whatever, but an end, this is for sure, right? A relationship has to end as well. Then there is the thank you. The thank you is the word that is dividing, parting. If you do not want to have a relationship with somebody, you say thank you. Thank you means, okay, I just give, whatever I have received from you, my thank you is equaling it out. And we are equal now. I don't owe you anything. With a please, you're constantly exchanging. With a thank you, you're stopping that. So when a partnership ends, if you have a constellation and it is the end of a partnership, you are looking for the thank you in this constellation. And if you cannot find the thank you in the representatives of the partner, it is not ended yet. So there would be still something to work, the partners would have to work through. And if you don't find the thank you, then you look for the please, because that comes before the thank you. And if you feel, yeah, there's the please is a possible, then they are still in relationship, and probably somebody's thinking of leaving the relationship, but it's not the sole purpose yet to leave the relationship. And when you can't find the please neither, you go backwards and find, is there even a yes? Some partner are together for 10 years and they have never committed to each other. There was never a yes. So this is the orders of words. So you look, okay, what kind of relationship do I have in front of me? And then you look by applying the words in different sentences, you see how the representative are reacting, and if you can find the word, you know at which stage the relationship is at. And for example, if you find the please in the relationship, so there's still an exchange going on, or one says please and the other one wants to say thank you, then you just go through the dynamics and you find out what is holding the one who is not in the thank you situation, who is still holding on to the please. What is holding him back to move on? And which could be very well a dynamic or an entanglement or something like that. Okay? If we are coming to the child to the mother-father relationship, meaning the river that flows down, then we are starting with a please. Because the child is a needy one, right? So it says please to the parents. I need your love, I need your nourishment, please give me, give me, give me. The child needs the relationship to the mother and to the father to survive. So the please is the beginning of the relationship of the child to the mother. It always starts with the please. If you cannot find in a family constellation the please, when you have a mother-child constellation in front of you, you know you have a dynamic there you have to work with. If you find the please, then you know that's in order. And you can move on. Nothing you need to do there, right? So there's the please. Then, when the child grows up and is not depending anymore on the relationship with the parents, there has to be a thank you. A thank you is meaning, okay, thank you for what I got. I now can go and live my own life. That happens often in teenage years, when they're teenagers, or later. Now, often it never happens. Often you see in a constellation that the thank you is not available to the child. It's still in need of nourishment from the mother, right? So you have to work with that then. Make sure that this stage of receiving nourishment from the mother, that this client goes through this stage again, until it is he or she is able to say thank you to the mother. And you will very often see, if you ask the client to say thank you, they will burst into tears, because they really want to say please. No, but they don't dare, or they don't want to, but instead then but they cannot say thank you neither. And then once you've been through that, then you're looking at your parents, father, mother, from an adult stage, like an adult kind of living situation, energy, and then you can say yes. Whatever the parents do is okay, you know, because they don't need to do anything for you anymore, you know. So when they, for example, or very often, children are very upset when, let's say, the mother dies and the father has a late wife, you know. A lot of adult children in their 40s getting upset, yeah. But these children haven't said thank you. They are still in the state of please. So they cannot say yes, because they are missing out this step. So when we're talking about the orders of orders of words, it's important that in a relationship, both go through these steps in the right order. You know, you cannot skip one, so to speak. Okay, and then you have the other relationship, mother-father to child. And I haven't found a lot of literature about it, I have to say. And as you now know, when you read it, it's not very structured what you find. It's more of a case study and all this, and philosophy. But I was thinking of all the family constellations I took part in. And there is really never another word other than yes that parents rightfully say. No. So if parents are not in a position to say please to their child, if they would do that, they would be the child. You know, they would be in need of the relationship. Why father and mother should never be in need of the relationship with the child. No. And there's also nothing to thank for to the child. I was really, really thinking about it. I'm happy if you find something to add to that, but I couldn't find anything parents really have to say thank you to their child. Because the parents are always connected with their children. And thank you would, would kind of bring this relationship to an end. And I have never seen a constellation where it was appropriate for the parents to say thank you to the children. Right? So it boils down to that in the father-mother relationship to the child, there is only a yes. A yes to agree whatever the child is doing, however the child is, it's always acknowledging what is. It always is good. No. If you're in the energy of the father or mother. So if you see in a family constellation father or mother that cannot say yes to their children, there is a dynamic. And to use these words is very powerful, especially when you begin to find out what a relationship you have in front of you and if there is a dynamic or not. Very powerful, right? So you don't need to look anywhere else. You just apply these 3 words in the right order and then you find out. Because what you do is when you suggest that a representative is using a specific word, you are testing the energy field, if that is right or wrong. Often, you know that before they even say that, sometimes, but sometimes not. And then you ask the representative to say, let's say please, let's say you ask the representative of a constellation with a man and a woman in a relationship, you ask that one partner that the other say please, and he cannot say please, and then you ask, try thank you. And then when this partner can say thank you, aha, the relationship has already ended. No? Good. So this is really, really powerful. And the good thing is it's easy to learn. We won't forget the 3 words. You don't need you didn't need to think in a constellation. Oh gosh, how many words? What can I say? Just the 3, just the 3. And you're always on the safe side. Good. So the sentence of resolution. Let's talk about that in general. The sentence is always coming from and are within the field, the morphogenetic field. These sentences are never sentences that you as a facilitator think about. This is why the sentences are short, clear, and all just a variation of the 3 words, thank you, please, or yes. How do we know a sentence comes from the field and not from the mind? You might ask, right? So there are a couple of tips. if you're in a constellation and you see a dynamic and you know you need to ask one of the representatives to say something, yeah? And I don't know whether you can see it, I take my glasses off. And you look like this. Can you see that? Have you seen that? I come closer, you look like this.
Yes.
This comes from the mind. So when the eyes go up, you're thinking. You might not see it yourself, but you can feel it kind of, and if you're very observant. So, you know, I don't want to think. So look down, look to the floor, don't close eyes, because eyes is kind of cutting off the connection with the field, right? Don't close your eyes. And we are coming through that when we talk about on Sunday about eye contact. So you as a facilitator, you are never closing your eyes. You're always part of the field. You're always present. So when you want to connect with the field, when you feel you're not connected with the field, or you are doubting if you're connected with the field, and you want to find a sentence to say, or to suggest to one of the representatives to say, look like with half closed eyes on the ground. And it'll come. You gotta trust. You know, it'll come. And always trust what comes. Don't try, then don't doubt it. Use it. And it's safe because you know, you suggest to a representative to say these words or the sentence. And if it's the representative says that doesn't feel right, that's exactly what you want to know. Even if a sentence comes from the field, it doesn't means that that is a sentence it is right for him to say now in this moment, because there might be something need to happen before this person can actually say this sentence, right? And that would be actually the whole purpose of the family constellation. So never feel like a failure if you suggest somebody to say something and they say, I can't say it, or that doesn't feel right, or they don't hear you. Sometimes they say, huh? They physically cannot hear you. This is all happening within the field. Yeah? So you got to trust and say, okay, fine. We try another one. And you know the rules because you learned it and you practice it, so you know which relationship you're in. So if you cannot find, like if a sentence of resolution that has the energy of a yes doesn't work, then you are just asking that, then say another sentence with the energy of please and see, you know. So one out of the three, yes please or thank you, will be something this representative is able to say. So it's super important when you're facilitating a family constellation that you remember you are at the bottom of the family system. Remember when we talked about that in module 1? You came last, yeah? You are not on top something or better as, or, you know, have more wisdom. Nothing of this is it, yeah? You are providing a service, you know, with what you have learned and with your capability to be open to the field and hold the energy of a group. We talk about that later. That's all you do. You don't need to perform. That's a good thing. Nobody's judging you by performance. You know, it's not performing at all. And also, and I tell you that it's probably not the right time to talk about it, but I want to say that I may repeat that often enough. Don't ever let people tell you you are good. That was a really good constellation to you, or you facilitated a really good constellation. That's rubbish, right? Because you're not doing anything, and the person who's telling you that is actually in a state of how can I say, of arrogance, you know, being able to judge you how you performed something which doesn't need to be performed, right? So what happens if somebody says that? What would you say if somebody says something so inappropriate?
I always say it's not me doing anything, it is God.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
I would say, isn't it amazing, the process?
Yeah, very good. Like that too. I tell you a little bit of an anecdote. When I was in my first constellation ever, with a wonderful woman who was trained with Bert Hellinger in Switzerland, the weekend before I conceived my son, that weekend there, I was so over the moon with everything. It was such a great group process, and this relief, as you know, with your first constellation is always such a big relief. And I thought, oh, and I said to her, "You are such a wonderful woman," because I thought she's just a wonderful woman, you know, because she made all this happen. I thought, and then what she was answering was, "You are only looking in a mirror." That's it. So you don't even let this close to you. You just say whatever you observe is you. So you're not talking about me, you know. And that's nice too. So for me, it was quite an awakening. I never said that again to anybody. Although I may think it. Okay, so the sentences of resolution coming from the field, they don't come from the mind. You cannot think about it. So when your eyes go up, you know, oh gosh, I'm thinking about it. Look down, and what is it? Nothing comes to you. Nothing. Are you starting to sweat? What would you do? When there's absolute nothing. That's exactly what the field wants. No words. Constellation works very well without words. Right? So you can sit on your chair and just be patient and observe. You know? And then be connected with the field, and at another stage you might get up and then you have a word. And that would be just right. So another anecdote of one of the constellations, I think it was a free talk, Ali, we did in Wellington. I remember that we had almost 30 participants, and most of them have never been to a family constellation, and they didn't even know what to expect. And after a little bit talking about family constellation, I was demonstrating what we do in a workshop, meaning that I was facilitating 2 constellations. And one of the participants, a male, mid-30 or whatnot, was asked to represent somebody. And then ask, you know, you go around as present, you ask, how are you? You know, you want to see what they, you know, feel. What are they connecting with? He said, nothing. He looked at absolutely nothing. And he was like, oh, I'm not spiritual. I just don't feel anything. You know? That was his attitude. I said, oh, no, that's okay. That's great. And then the constellation evolved and evolved and evolved. And it was obviously that the dynamic of the men was important there. So I asked other men to represent, you know, his father, his grandfather, and so on. And guess what? They all felt nothing. Nothing. That was the dynamic. Until we found one in the generation who started to feel something, and then we could work from there. So this guy who thought he's completely incapable of representing in a family constellation because he felt nothing was chosen by the field because of that, because he needs to represent a man who couldn't feel any emotions, who felt nothing. So this is how precise the field works. You really need to trust it. and not doubt it and say, oh, he's new, he doesn't know what to do. I exchange him, I take another one, a more experienced, representative. That happened a lot in constellations. I was like observing. It never happens when Bert was constellating, but when I was with others, they do that. They do all sorts of things to control the workshop, to control the constellation. They're in need of controlling it because they are thinking, right? But I'm not talking about like a freedom constellation where it's chaos and everybody does what everybody wants to do. That's not what I'm talking about, right? You are still facilitating, right? So you are leading the group, but not with your mind, but with your connection to the morphic field. Okay, good. So so when the sentence of resolutions, they are always concerned with either reconciliation, that means allow the flow of love to flow, or with honor and respect. If you just remember these two options and the three words, you pretty round up 90% of the family constellation. So reconciliation is bringing together what belongs together, with this, as you now know, a please and a yes. And honor and respect is always a thank you and a yes. Either or, right? Depends on in which relationship you are, or which relationship is there. The sentences of resolutions are very, very simple. Sometimes they don't need to be good English. They might sometimes not even need to make sense. This is not what we are looking for. They speak to the soul of the family member that is represented there. And you can see the effect of this sentence of resolution in his whole body language. You can see it immediately. There's no doubt about that. So if a very complicated philosophy, like a sentence comes to you that you could write a book about in philosophy lectures, that's not from the field. I guarantee you, that's coming from the mind. Also, you don't need to be eloquent in a family constellation, right? Because you're not performing, and the soul doesn't resonate with eloquent words. It must be very simple. So these sentences can either be true or untrue. There's also no in between. So if you suggest to a representative, say, I follow you, this representative can either say, no, that's not true, or yes, that's true. What is if the representative says, I don't know? Then it's not time for him to act. Then you go to another representative and see if you can start the dynamic or the finding what mends in another representative. Right? So in a family constellation, you never stand there and argue with a representative, right? That's absolutely not going to happen. So for example, you say, I follow you, and he said, nah. And you say, but I can clearly see that. You must follow him. I can see that you're looking like, never argue with the representative. If he says no, then it's no. This is coming from the soul. Right. And as we discussed before, this sentence of resolution, they are different in different relationships, and we are going through all these because of that, through the different relationships, because they are all coming in the orders of words, depending on whether you have a relationship between equals, or a relationship to your father, mother, or a relationship from father, mother to child. So we will look at that. Yes. Sentence of resolution. So these are the sentences that most often come in family constellation, which are probably are the most common ones. One would be, I take this life with everything it entails. And these are all Bert Hellinger sentences, by the way. Yeah. So that's not mine. I take this life with everything it entails. That's a yes, right? Can you feel that? I take this life even at the cost of yours. That often is when a mother died by giving birth to the child. It's a very strong dynamic, as you can imagine, for the child. And to acknowledge that is what heals, what mends, you know. It's my death and my fate, and I alone carry it. That is, yes, it's my thing, you know. I acknowledge my fate. By leaving it to me, you are honoring my life and fate. So don't try to take it away from me, because you can't. It's mine. And I'm aware of it. Very strong dynamic, because when you come to this stage, when you are supposing these sentences, this is the end of the constellation. Because this is where the healing motion takes place. So when would you say, for example, it's my death and my fate and I alone carry it? If you have a victim-perpetrator situation, for example. If you have a victim-perpetrator situation with an entanglement with the victim from a descendant. Okay. Is there anything you would like to discuss so far? Or question?
Can I just clarify what you just said? So the entanglement with the descendant would be the ancestor.
I can barely hear you, Kate. It's very.
It would be the ancestor who is
Which
saying,
one?
it's my life, it's my death and my fate. It would be
with the entanglement. It would be the.
It would be somebody before.
Representative of the ancestor speaking to the person. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure I
Yes,
understood.
the ancestors, or remember in the orders of love, could be also a advantage or disadvantage giver in former generations, for example. Yeah. But whoever is there, yeah, has had an entanglement with probably the client, or with somebody the client wants to look at in the family constellation. You know. So you may come in the family constellation to the stage where this is a sentence of resolution between two people in former generations, whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations before. Yeah. Or with the current one who is entangled with this one from this generation. That would be the sentence of resolution, that the one, as you said, the ancestor, the one who came first, has to say. So these, but this is only some standard sentences from Bert Hellinger repertoire. You can use your own words as long as they are simple and coming from the field. Okay. Okay, so when do we apply and when do we not apply yes? As a very general rule, when a relationship or a movement needs to be acknowledged, you say yes, or you let the representative say yes. Now, you may ask yourself, why would he have to do that? Anyhow, because otherwise the movement might not take place. You know how powerful words are on the energy. And this is why we let them say that, because they are setting a movement, they are setting something in motion. And the basic word is yes, because with acknowledging what is, you wouldn't have a constellation if everybody would acknowledge what is, just so that we be clear, right? That would be a constellation, because nobody would come, because they would be all happy and healthy. So if you have a constellation, there is a lot going on, but one is for sure, whatever is going on is not acknowledged. So you can always start there. You know, you see two representatives and they're either looking at each other or not looking at each other, right? So to say yes in this situation is to let the one who's looking at the other say, I see you. Because that's exactly what he does. And that's acknowledging is a yes, I see you. It's not a please look at me. It's not thank you, I don't need to look at you anymore. It's a yes. And then the one who's not looking at him looks away. You can let them take, I don't see you. And it sounds so simple, but this is what the power, that is the power, you know. Then they wake up and they say, oh my gosh, I don't see him. That's correct, you know. And then you may get the movement that this person turns around. And then you have a dynamic in the family constellation from where you can take the further steps. No. There's the movement of the soul, to how Bert Hellinger calls it, where you don't say a word throughout the whole family constellation. We will do that one day as well. It's possible, but it takes a long time. You know, it's a long constellations normally, quite complex, and you need to be very focused because you have no help. You know, if you can't apply words, it's more difficult to hold the space, you know. So this is when you apply yes in all the variations of yes, in all the different sentences of resolutions, and also in your own words, if you may want to do that. Yeah. A yes is always acknowledging what is. It's always a great start, other than from the child to the mother, as we now know. This has to start with a please. Other than that, it's always a good start in a constellation to get something in motion. So find for that, if you have representatives standing up there, either on the board or virtually or in a room, and they're standing there, just observe where's the energy, where does the energy flow, from where to where, and let them all speak that. You know? And then then the constellations can start. Some movement will happen. So when you do not apply yes in any form, shape or form, is when there is an entanglement observed or an unbalance, something that is not appropriate to agree to, other than acknowledging that it is, but you're not agreeing, like, for example, in an unsolved constellation, the victim cannot agree to the perpetrator, yes, you know, it's just emotionally from the soul level not possible, because it's at the beginning, so it's stuck in another dynamic, you know. Because if the victim could say to the perpetrator yes, they wouldn't be in your constellation, because they would be fine, you know. So you have to wait till the constellation evolves, so you find the yes, which would be the end of the constellation. But you can also let them, if there's no movement, acknowledge that they cannot say yes. You know, that is another form of acknowledgement. So you would ask them, for example, say to the perpetrator, I cannot agree to what you did. Or another trick is to say, you are kind of getting closer step by step. You can say, I cannot agree to what you did just yet. Or you let them say, I need a little bit longer to see if I am able to agree to what you did. You know? So you can go step by step, slowly, but you cannot ask the representative to say yes. That brings me to the overall theme of, or the overall rule, that you never push for a result, ever, in a family constellation. Yeah. It's not like, oh gosh, now we are constellating 40 minutes, now we have to come to a solution, so let's just say yes. Although the representatives are clearly saying they are not ready to do that, they feel uncomfortable, they would only do that to please you as a facilitator. Or maybe because they need a toilet break or something like that, you know. So there would be no healing effect, there would be no resolution in this constellation. However, you can break off a constellation, and Bert Hellinger did that all the time, quite rude sometimes, at the height of the energy, like when everything is in movement, you know, and everything moved and breaks up, because indeed the resolution comes after the constellation naturally, you know. It's like water, you stir up in a glass, stir up, and it's all stirring up, and then you leave it alone and it will settle. But I wouldn't advise that, because it needs to be the right, you know, it's really hard to find the right point when to do that without, you know, harming somebody. Like they are in turmoil and emotional turmoil, and then you let them go, you know. And Bert Hellinger has been often criticized for that publicly, you know, that he's not caring about his clients, that he just let them go if they are so emotionally, you know, about things. That was actually a big thing. Why he had not only friends, but it was effective, you know, very effective. So I tell you that, but I'm not recommending that you do that. Yeah. So I recommend you go in a constellation until you find the sentence of resolution where you see that this is appropriate for the, like, for the dynamic you have seen, that this is an appropriate end to the dynamic. And you see that when the representatives are relieved. I mean, often it's very clear. They hug, or, you know, their face is shining, or they sigh. Sighing is a great sign of resolved dynamic, right? So that is quite clear when it's resolved, the dynamics. There's nothing you really need to be worried about. You will see that. Yeah, there's nothing that can be mistaken with.
Can I ask you about Birch for a minute? You just made me think.
Yeah.
He seems, in reading the books, you know, he's very black and white about stuff, isn't he? Like, he's like, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Like it or lump it. This is how it is, and it's quite brutal at times.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, and I remember the very first session in the first module. I remember you saying, you may not agree with this, but just let it sit with you.
Yeah.
So is that how you feel about the constellation work, that it is what it is, whether you like to hear it or not? Do you absolutely believe that what he said was right? Or do you feel like there's more of a grey area than he saw? Do you know what I mean? Like, 'cause some of the stuff I have this kind of reaction to, really? You know, because it's so black and white. It's kind of,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Is it as black and white as that? Like, have you seen it consistently that is how it is, whether it sits comfortably or not? That is how it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But what I feel is that so it's yes and no. Bert Hellinger, it's not a belief system. Bert Hellinger has proven with his work that this works and others not. To make something wishy-washy doesn't help anybody, right? If you have cancer, you know, it doesn't help if somebody says you might have cancer or might have not cancer. You know, it's black or white. If you're pregnant, you're either pregnant or not pregnant. If a sentence is either true or not true. It cannot be a little bit true. So so the work itself is very clear and black and white, if you want to say. Now his morals are different to that, I think. I think we need to be a little bit aware of his age. Yeah, and I'm not saying that in any disrespectful way. You know, he was starting with his work when he was 60. He was a former priest, Catholic priest, and he was in the height of this work in his 75. You know, so his morals are coming from the beginning of the last century, kind of. You know, so if he's talking about same-sex relationships and all of this is really hard to swallow. I wouldn't subscribe to that. You know, so with the same-sex orientation, he always says this is always an entanglement, so to speak, a dysfunction. Yeah, that's what he would say. I wouldn't subscribe to it. It's not what I observe. I think nature's just evolving and, you know, granting more freedom for expression. No. So he would, for example, he would like to fix. So how can I say it? If you have a gay couple there, right, or somebody is gay and in his constellation somehow, you know, he would find who is he entangled with, that, and he would say he is confused with his sex. And then he would see if there's an entanglement that, so to speak, take the confusion out, and then he's not gay anymore. Practically, right? I like this is how it looks most of the time. I wouldn't subscribe to that. I want to see it I want to see the family constellation and see if that, you know, there might be good reasons. You know, I also think about past lives and different forms of reincarnation, and there are so many possibilities why somebody chooses, you know, is born with one sex, wants another, and it's not always a problem, right? I wouldn't treat it as a problem, let's put it that way. Unless the person has a really problem with it, of course, right? So, of course, if somebody is attracted to men, like a man is attracted to men, but doesn't like that at all, you know, and feels it comes to you and wants you to look at it, of course, you need to be open to say, to see if there's an entanglement and if that is actually has an influence on his sex preferences in later years. Of course, that's possible, but I wouldn't go in a constellation and assume that everybody who has another sex preference is entangled, you know, and can be fixed, so to speak. But yes, as far as the work is concerned, it is very simple and very black and white. It is either so or it's not so. Either somebody belongs to the family system or not. If you think, okay, so we, you know, remember our family tree with everything else, you think, okay, well, that's nice and that's okay. But I think in this constellation, I take the step cousin or whatnot in, you know. I would say don't do that. You are watering everything down. It won't have a healing effect on the client because you're potting around somewhere where there's no dynamic, where there's no energy. Right? So I would stick to the system, definitely. Definitely. Does this answer your question, Tracy? Yeah? But it's a good point. If you read Bert Hellinger, you sometimes feel like you are traveling back in time by 40 years, right? And that is so. And this is why I also think it is really time to you know, take the essence of his teachings. It's like every teacher, like think of Maharishi or whoever, Ram Dass or whoever comes to your mind, or Yogananda or whatever, yeah? If you read the text they have written 100 years ago, it doesn't, like, you know, it's not quite fitting but the essence of what they were teaching is right also now. It's always right. It won't change. And this is what the essence of what Bert is teaching is right, and I would take that and nothing else. And I hope that with my training here that I can give you the essence of his teachings and you make your own with it. You know, that's what I wish for you is going to happen. You know, and then I would be very happy. Yeah. Okay, time check. Let's go through the next slide and then we may go to a short break. So how to apply? Yes, as I already said, and don't forget it, you always acknowledge what is, always. You never argue with the representative. And I cannot tell you that more. I have seen that. That happens, you know. The facilitator is so convinced to see something what the representative is not confirming, you know, that the facilitator cannot let go of this preconception because it's so compelling in this situation. But always go with what the representative say. Because it's not the representative as a person, it's the field, you know. If you don't trust what the representative is saying, you're not trusting the field. That's basically it. So you can kind of forget the work. Why would you do it? No. So if you have a very clever, you know, you are so happy to found this sentence and it looks so great, and the representative doesn't want to say it, that's okay. You know, just forget it. Just sit down, empty. Just wait a few minutes, see what happens. But what you can also say is you can ask him to say the opposite of what you have suggested. And very often that would be the right thing. So if you ask them to say that I am like you, you know, so you say one representative to the other, say to him, I am like you, and you are like me. And then he said, no, we can't say that. Then you ask him, then say, I am not like you. And then he said, oh, yeah, I am not like you. I can say that I'm not like you. This is acknowledging what is. It is not the solution. It's not the resolution or solution. I'm confused. What is better here? The solution, maybe. But it is acknowledging what is, you know. So you can always start there or go back there. You will never do something wrong if you do that. Moving forward, you want some stuck energy, some stuck situation to move in any direction, just to show you a dynamic so you can work with it. Yes, acknowledging what is. As long as you don't find a specific reason to apply please or thank you. Of course, if you see that there is a please needs to be said, then the please is stronger than the yes. But if you don't see neither a please nor a thank you, then it's a yes, and you get things moving. You apply also yes when you want the support of ancestors, and you often want the support of ancestors. So to bring the ancestors into the constellation, you know, you ask them to apply the yes. That's another a trick, another way to get energy moving. And at the beginning of a relationship, when you have equals in an equal relationship, you know, then you can apply the yes, and things should go moving. So what comes next? Yeah, let's go for this. When not to apply yes. So never apply yes when there's a child energy, you know, a need of love energy of a child. Of course, the child can acknowledge, yes, I need you, but yes, I need you is a please. So that you know, it's not a really yes, it's a I need you is a please. Or if a victim cannot look at the perpetrator at the beginning of a constellation, you see a victim perpetrator energy, and you know the resolution is that they say yes to each other, yeah, and you ask maybe the victim, and a yes is also just to look at him. It doesn't even to say yes, just to look is already a yes, because it is acknowledging what is. There's a perpetrator. Here he is. Yes, you know, yes, he is. Often you find in a dynamic they cannot look at the perpetrator, and that is meaning you cannot apply yes yet. There is another dynamic that needs to be solved, and we're talking about the dynamics in a while. So at the moment we are at the beginning of a constellation, right? Okay. Let's do this slide. Yes towards parents. So what are this yes in different shades and forms in different relationships? So if you have a child that is gone through the please state and the thank you state, you know, then we are coming to the yes state and a constellation, and that would be I honor and respect you as my parent. It's a quite adult statement if you think about it, yeah. A child in need of the love, or a child that is just struggling with letting go of the parents, is normally not capable of saying such a mature sentence, right? The other one would be, you are the big one and I'm the small one. You will see that all the time, because this is when the mother, the parent-child relationship is from the part of the child not quite in order, when the child is feeling like superior to the parent in the need to do something for us. It's very often. Then to acknowledging that the child is a child and the adult is the adult, and to make the representative to acknowledge this position as a child, the sentence is always, you are the big one and I am the small one. And it works very well. You will hear that a lot. No, it's a very important sentence. It is an acknowledging to the situation as it is. I honor you and your life journey soul purpose is when you find a dynamic and it has to stop. And you want to acknowledge that it is over. Remember, we have either this honoring and respect or the reconciliation, right? So here are we in the honor and respect category. What goes on between the two of you has nothing to do with me. It's also child to both parents. Yeah, when both parents are addressed because the child has formally obtained a stage of superiority and wanted to fight for one of the parents against the other, which is an entanglement. And when you come in the constellation to the part where the child is leaving what is in between the parents to them and is not getting involved anymore, then that is acknowledging the parents in that way. Very powerful, happens a lot as well. What goes on between the two of you has nothing to do with me. You would see in constellations, a lot of constellations are in balance of that the children are feeling superiority to one of the parents. It's a very common dynamic. And when you think of the orders of love, you know that this is causing suffering. And for your client in the family constellation, you can help him to resolve that, to find the rightful place. Doesn't mean that the client is a child. It could be within the family constellation, somebody else. Right. I acknowledge the love between you and am not in a place to judge that. So that's also a yes towards parents. Often if one of the child is identified with the same sex, say the daughter with the mother or the son with the father, you know, then you have like daddy's daughter. So the daughter is kind of taking over the role of the wife towards the man, or the son is taking over the role as a husband and partner towards the mother. That happens a lot in life. And that comes up in a constellation. And the resolution is here in a yes, that the child steps out of this position and acknowledge that there's a love going on between the parents that has nothing to do with them. The yes towards the parents is without you I won't exist. That's also very powerful, because often the child to the mother or the father, they have resentments. They think whatever they have given is not good enough. Like, oh, my mother was not really good with me. She didn't buy me the red dress when I was 3, and you know, things like that. And then the child is in a once grown up, it's in a suffering position, right? Because it never acknowledged that the love the mother has given had the sole purpose not to buy her the baby a red dress, but to nourish it so it exists. It's giving life. You know, it's not the role of a parent to give the child what the child wants. You know, that's when the child feels superior to the parents. The child says, "I tell you what you have to give me." You know. So you have to really look closely. That's all the parents ever give is life. As long as you have a client who has obviously survived, you know, the love has been given, even if the client disagrees with the form of it. That has also to do with these abuse cases, which we have to look at it in a different angle, but at the bottom line, life has been given, because the client or the person you're working with exists, right? Has survived, basically, you know. And this is super important that as a facilitator, you're not getting entangled in any kind of dramas. Yeah. This is also good if that you don't let the person who is sitting next to you or on a virtual workshop who you're looking at, you don't let him to tell a story. We will go through that in module 3. But just that you know it, right? There's always dramas between child and parents in one way or the other going on, but this is not what you look at in a family constellation. You look at the dynamic, you know, not at the drama. This is all. It really helps not to let the client talk too much, and if the client wants to go into a drama, you just cut them off. Say, I heard enough, thank you, and then you start the constellation. Very, very important. You gave me life is the same as without you I won't exist. Same yes to the parents. Or any other sentence in your own words that the field is kind of giving you that is a yes towards the parents. But it should always start with an I. You know, a short, simple sentence that starts with an I. I don't know whether you are still awake enough to give me some examples, something coming to your mind, which is not on the list, yeah, Mariella.
Would it be that you mean without you, I wouldn't exist? Does that sound better? That won't, like it won't is future time and the person already exists.
Yeah, wouldn't is better. Yes.
Okay, and you gave me life. Okay, with F. Yes, you gave me life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So any sentence that comes to your mind in your own words as a little exercise? A yes towards the parents?
Different to these ones?
Yeah. Well, a very simple one we can borrow from one of the other lists. It's I see you. Very simple. Even more powerful is now I see you, or I see you now. Because a lot of children cannot see their parents because they have an entanglement with somebody else.
And that comes before the thank you?
That depends on depends on which stage of the constellation you are in. Okay. So the yes towards parents is always the last. Right. So the children, they have to, been through please and thank you before.
Right. Okay. And then I see you.
And then I see you. This is kind of the awaken, like some dark glasses taken off or something like that.
I need you would be more like a please. Yes.
Right. That's a please. Okay. Let's have a short break. 10 minutes. My clock is on 7:33. Is that the same with everybody else?
Yeah, 35, mine says.
35. Okay. What time do you have, Nam Shakti?
3:33.
33. Yeah.
33. It's a 33. Very good. Okay, I see you in 10 minutes. 43. Okay. All right. Oh, good. So, so what's next? Yes towards children. So as I said before, when I was contemplating about yes, please, and thank you from the parents to the children, I just finding sentences for yes that were appropriate and the dynamic. So if you would suggest to a parent to say please to the child, and the parent would like to say that, then the order of love is not in order, obviously, right? So you can actually use the words with the parent to check out whether there's still an imbalance that needs to be looked at. You know. By the way, a please is not only in words. We are talking about gestures as well, but I just say it here because in the context it is important. You might have observed in a family constellation, well, at least in my constellations and in bird constellations, that you never allow a parent to move towards their children. You know, you stop because the movement towards is always a please. So you would stop the parent immediately when they want to move towards a parent and ask the child to move towards the parent, because that's the appropriate thing to do, because the child is looking for the connection, the nourishing connection to the parent with a please. And I was always thinking when Bert in the school, in the Hellinger school, when I learned about it, because I had my baby a few years before, and I was an obsessed pregnant mom to be, you know, I was reading all the literature and I was making a whole project out of being pregnant and becoming a mom. And I was reading that the baby, when it's born, should be laid on the belly of the mom and not put on the breast to suck. So the baby has to find the breast. So there has to be a kind of a movement, a crawling or a lunging or something, you know, to find the breast. And you're not just popping the breast into the mouth of the freshborn child. Because, as we now know, because this is the movement to get nourishment for where nourishment is, and the energy that the child needs to have to be strong and, you know, and do the right thing. And I was always thinking, so that's what I think about when I see in a family constellation that a mother wants to move towards the child. I always think of that. And I think, no, stop. The child has to come. And if the child cannot come, you know, the child is not in the right position. It cannot say the please, you know. And that's, yes, no, Shakti.
So, like, my mother didn't breastfeed me, and I didn't breastfeed my children, and my sister didn't breastfeed her children either, and my other sister didn't breast her children either. Is there something there that's not balanced?
I would say that would be a good example. So if you would like to constellate that in one of our training constellations, then we have a look at it. That's a good question. So we see. We let the field decide. So as I said, I see only a yes when the parents are moving towards their children or relating with their children, and the yes comes in different ways. It can be, I give you my blessings on your way. That is a lovely one. Or you are free to do whatever you want to do is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Yes, from the parents. My love will always be with you, because that's true. It's a yes, you know. Your father and mother's love will never end. No. I will always look at you with love is the same thing. Little bit different phrase. And I'm here when you need me. It's also yes. Yes, I'm here. So you can come. I'm not going and give you that. But if you want, come and get it. It's here, right? And then of course there are other There are other sentences you might want to think about as a matter of exercise, probably something that you want to do in the aftermath of this module, that you think of your own sentences when you go through the recordings and you have your own time. Then when this slide comes up, just think about some sentences and write them in your notebook that comes to you, that would have the same energy as we discussed here. So yes, in partnership, we talked about that. Often the problem in relationship constellations is that one of the partners is not fully available for the other. So there is not this fully yes yet, you know? And this might as well very often because there's an unresolved issue with the former partner. That's most, or with the parents, right? Or of course there's a dynamic that is hinting at an entanglement. So when you say yes to the partnership, then you have often the sentence after, like, this entanglements have been solved. It's like kind of an awakening in this partner, and then they feel very good with saying, I'm now free to be with you, because they were not free before, unconsciously, you know. And then you see in the face that is exactly, you know, what they needed to say. Or I'm now fully available for you, if it was like a half-hearted thing before, because the energy went towards somebody else, you know, an aunt, sister, a former partner, something like that. So that is at the beginning. Then you can see, now the partnership can actually begin. But you also need the yes at the end of a partnership. So after, you know, the end of a partnership is when you go towards the partnership, you have to find the thank you. The thank you is kind of leading towards separation. You know, you are balancing everything that hasn't been balanced. You leave no depths behind. That's what the thank you says. You know, in real life, not only in constellations. That's why you say a lot of thank yous if you want to be free. You cannot say thank you enough. It's a really good practice. So you would have, you know, been through the state of thank you to be able to let the partner go and don't collect more debt and repay debt through your thank you. And then you can say yes also to the end of the partnership with my love will stay, even if I have to leave. It's one, or my love, I love you, and that what is guiding us. If you think about the first module when we talked about the family system and who belongs to the family system, we were talking about partners bound by destiny. And these partners bound by destiny, they are, when one has fulfilled the destiny, they're normally parting, because there is no point to stay together anymore. So in this case, which could be hard because obviously they were partners, and some maybe cause some suffering, and one of your, you know, you have a client who wants to look at it. When you are able to help with getting the movement going in order to solve that, so they can part without feeling emotionally involved, then I love you, and that what is guiding us is a beautiful yes to the end of the destiny partnership. Right? Or you will always have a place in my heart, because some partners, they don't want to use the word love anymore when they're separated. I have just seen that a lot of times, that my love will be with you is too much. It feels like that is not an end. But then you can, like the smaller version of it is, you'll always have a place in my heart. That normally always works. So nobody really has a problem with that. But that is more because the word love is so emotionally loaded. The way we use love and the orders of love and so forth is the general energy that you would expect in a partnership as well, even if it ends. But then the partners themselves, they are thinking of love as, you know, a commitment. You know, this I love you, this exclusion of others. And obviously that's not appropriate when the partnership ends. So the word love can be problematic by the end, at the end of the partnership. So then if they cannot see my love will always stay or something like that, you say you always have a place in my heart, and let them say that, and that would be mainly most of the times better. And then you have the partnership, the partnership with children, and there is almost always the appropriate sentence, the yes sentence of resolution is, through our children we'll always be connected, because that's just true. It's just acknowledging what is. Okay. So then we have a couple of other relationships we want to briefly look at. It's a yes in relationship to the ancestors. So how would you express a yes in the relationship to the ancestors? Is I honor you and your death. You know, remember, it's reconciliation, honor and respect. So in this case, it's honor and respect. I honor you and your death, and I give you place in my heart is also very warming, often, for the relationship between ancestors or towards ancestors. Of course, you see in some constellations the relationship towards God. And I found, because I'm open to it, I mean, a lot of constellation facilitator never touch this, you know. They exclude a lot of, how can I say, they're restricting their field to certain, you know, modality possibilities, and they are not letting the whole field work with past lives and God and maybe the devil or whatnot, you know. However, Bert was never restricted to that, and I feel like also that is not necessary at all. So in my constellations, I do see quite frequently that God shows up, and this the yes in relationship to God is always and can only be a I am you and you are me, or now I see you in me. If the representative who has a relationship to God cannot say that, guess what? It's not God who's there. It's the father or the mother. You know? So this brings me to another topic, the sentence, the words, the power of the words. The words are also telling you what relationship you see. So if you have two representatives there, and you think, I see that that's God, and that's God, that's God, and this representative has a relationship with God, and you ask them to say, now I see you in me, and they cannot say that, and then you think, oh, if it's not God, but they're looking up, then, you know, the next possibility would be the mother or the father. And if you then ask them, well, then say please, you know, as a child do, and they can say that, they feel good with it, then you haven't put up God, although you wanted it. But in fact, it's the father or the mother. So in a constellation, you always need to be open that your ideas of who is representing whom is probably not correct. You need to be open to that. Don't stick to your ideas about who is who, right? It's very, you are very flexible. If you have these words, you can test it out, and if you see another dynamic, if you see, then that's what it is. And don't be afraid of that. That's the work. You are guided with these tools, you know. Because if you would pot around with a relationship with God and it's in truth the mother, and what is there's not a realization necessary or a spiritual awakening, but only, you know, a child going on the knees and crying and begging for love, you know. If you don't allow for that, then the constellation has no effect. No. And then, you know, then you haven't done the job, basically. So that would be the
Can I ask
relationship.
a question, Maya? Sorry, I'm just a little bit stumped on this bit. So if God is going to be in a constellation, is that because the part of the issue is to do with the client's relationship with God, so they have brought God into the constellation, or is it that as the facilitator you have brought God in? Can you give an example of where God has had a place?
It is normally the facilitator who sees God. Yeah. So when you have, there are some gestures, we talk about that a little bit later. There are some gestures in that, or if the client talks to you about it, that there's a religious background in the family. And then in the constellation, as the constellation evolved, you always look for that what is missing. And in these circumstances, there's often God missing. Because God is, due to the conditioning of this client, part of the system. Like God is always a part of this because it's a source. But like a life, like a part that needs to be addressed, you know? Because you always try to look for that what is missing. And that could be God. So you know when it is God, when this representative you put up feels like it needs to stand higher, so I put them on a chair. And then normally they feel great. And then when they look, you know, with great love of the people and they don't act like a dictator, you know, who is superior and arrogant, but if they act with love and giving, then you know, oh, it's God. You do not over.
So it might be that someone who's representing says that identifies that someone's missing, and you just bring another representative in without necessarily
You are the one
knowing.
who noticed who's missing. They never notice that.
Oh, okay.
No. That's the facilitator's work, is to notice that there's somebody missing. So, well, sometimes, yes, sometimes someone says, oh, I think there's somebody missing. These are very experienced representatives, you know, they're in the field, and this often happens with siblings and things like that. But the client will not realize that God is missing. That's you. Yeah, they will never even think of that. No. So, you know, it's a little bit theoretical, everything, because you haven't done the practical work, but it all makes sense once you are in this position, you know, because you can rely on the information and you know you don't need to think about it, really, you know, because the way you learn it is like with the words and how you try it, that's all helping you to find the dynamic. No? So if you have, let's say, if you have a person, you don't even know if it's God or not, you just have a representative there. How do you find out who that is? With the words. Yes, please, or thank you. You know, you ask the representative to tell him or her that word, or let them speak this word, and then you work yourself towards the relationship, what you see. You know, you don't need to have a vision of it, and you know that's not the way. It's nitty gritty work. You know, you earn your money. You go through it, and then at the end you know, gosh, this is not the Father, this is God actually. And then often, now what happens is you often ask then the client, have you been brought up Catholic? And then she said, oh yes, I was in a nun school, and Oh, yes. And then here we go. God is a big part of the family system. So when you start a family constellation, you know nothing. You see nothing. Nothing. It's just an empty page in front of you, empty space. And the field will guide you to fill it out. You just follow the steps. We talk about that later. You put 2 representatives up and see what, and start asking them words. Find out who is who. Yeah. That is much more effective than doing the old family constellation way, when you ask your client, okay, who is part of your family? I've been asked when I had my first constellation to actually research and ask my parents who, about something in the past, and with my grandparents or great-grandparents, and so kind of gather information about the family. And then you've been coming to the constellation and you will ask about the family and you will try to remember everything. Sometimes you have to write it down. And then the facilitator will put them all up in larger groups, like groups over 20 or 30. And then that's obviously a quite long constellation, right? It can take over an hour. And then, you see which person's exposing a dynamic and which person's not. And then you let the person sit who are not part of the dynamic. That's a way that you always can do. Takes a lot of time though, and can be very daunting. And also, obviously, when you start, you don't have 30 people. So it's just not practical neither. Yeah. So it's much easier to start with 2 and see what the dynamic is. Okay. So in the relationship to the perpetrator is, oddly, you might think, for the victim to say a yes is, now I see your pain. Because in fact, the perpetrator is in pain, and you can see that in constellations, right? Yes, the victim is hurt, but the pain on a spiritual level is with the perpetrator. And acknowledging what is, meaning a yes, in relationship to the perpetrator is, now I see your pain.
So are you saying is the victim saying to the perpetrator, now I see your pain?
Yes. Because remember, it's either reconciliation or respect and honor, and here's reconciliation. Because victim and perpetrator are separated. That is the problem that needs solving. That is what causes suffering. The victim, however, says to the perpetrator, however, says to the victim, you belong to me and I belong to you. We are the same. And as I said, it doesn't need to make always sense, but in a constellation, you see the effect. And on a spiritual level, it does make sense. But not quite on a social level. You know what I mean? In social interactions. We cannot see that. This is why often you don't find solutions if you just, do social things, because you're conditioned to certain morals. They don't allow for the strong words and strong sentences to be said. And a taboo is definitely the victim-perpetrator relationship. And especially if the victim-perpetrator relationship is in a family, that's completely taboo. There must be always the bad guy, which is the perpetrator, and the good guy, which is the victim. While on a spiritual level, that is not true. There is no good and bad. There is only a mutual destiny. And that needs to be acknowledged. Right? This is why you cannot argue with your clients or with the people in your workshop about your sentences. That's not a training there. That's another thing I want to say. Never ever discuss what you say with the group. You know, you are the leader of the pack there. Yeah. And it would go everything goes sour if you give up the leadership and let somebody else lead it. And you do that if you let somebody question what you do or say, you know. That's not in order, so to speak. That's not the right order of things. So the yes in relationship to an advantage giver is I'm honoring my debts to you. Because remember, somebody who gave an advantage to you is or to one of your ancestors, which you're entangled with, in the situation as a representative, is somebody whom you owe something. So in order to acknowledge this, you say exactly that.
So you're saying debt, DEBT.
Oh, with a B, not a P.
And
Yeah,
no
thank
H.
you. Okay, I will memorize that, hopefully. Check that. Okay, so that's it. Yeah. So you're honoring that you still owe something. And that's a yes, basically. And the other way around, the disadvantage giver would say, now I see your desperation. You know, because he took something of you. Or something, desperation or another word. Anyhow, took something from you. Good. Okay. Now we are going to talk about dynamics and family system. This is actually the heart, the core of family constellation is to understand that there are basically only 3 dynamics that ever show up in an entanglement that needs a resolution. So that's a good news. It's not like 30, it's not 300. It's only 3. The magic word, 3. 3 words, 3 dynamics. It's really easy to memorize. So the 3 dynamics are preparation or atonement for my sins, which we talk about now. Next, tomorrow we talk about rather me than you, and then I follow you. That's the 3 dynamics in family systems. And everything else is fishing in the dark. I can just repeat that. You have family constellations and they often take longer. Like the effective family constellation shouldn't take longer than 20 minutes. You know, there's not much that can happen after that. If you haven't found the imbalance and found the sentence of resolution, or not found what meant or who's missing, then it won't happen. That's fine, and not everything needs to be resolved, by the way. That's fine. But then to continue another hour, you know, what would that bring? And I don't think the representative, like the workshop participants, are happy about that neither. I think Ale, you told me you told about the constellation where you were in, which was 2 hours. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Yes, I have been in some constellations that it takes 2 hours.
Would you briefly explain to us how did you feel about it? How was that resonating with you?
Well, I feel super tired, and for some moments I feel sleep and low energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was my feeling, my experience.
And at the end of the workshop, when you leave, how did you feel then?
Yeah, I feel tired, and yeah, like I want to sleep. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Ali, for that. I just, if you all have received, I suppose, the newsletter I sent out, the September newsletter, My Father's Eye. Did you see it? Everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have put a quote in there from one of the workshop participants from the workshop. You know, we just had the virtual workshop, and she was saying, she was thanking me, and she was saying she felt buzzing all day, and she felt like she wants to jump and hug everybody. And that is the feeling the workshop participants should have if a shift has happened, right? That is a sign of freedom and happiness, or more, not absolute, but more relatively to before, freedom of happiness somebody gained through the experience of a family constellation. Yeah. So to feel tired and wanting to sleep and all these attributes, there is nothing, there is no resolution happening at all. So remember, sighing, or somebody smiling like really relieved, or tears are running, that's a relief, and all these signs. This is high energy. You can, and Bert Hellinger did that often, break it there, you know. That's okay, because it will still settle and it will still work, you know, it will. But to not find anything and fishing and fishing and fishing, that's not the work, right? That's desperation, because you think you have to do something. You think you know, but you don't. Anyhow, so thank you, Ali, for that. I was just thinking of that. There have been some longer constellations with Bert Hellinger, not 2 hours though, but they were allowing the dynamic to complete. It is very intense. So there are either war scenarios in the Third Reich War, which, you know, lots of dead people and really big constellations, you know, or there was a movement very slowly, a movement from the child to the mother, and he didn't want to, you know, interrupt that, but it was always high energetic. Nobody was tired. Yeah. But if you're not in this, if you're not the master, so to speak, and you won't have this constellation, because, you know, they are not coming to you, because you only get what you can actually handle. That's life. That's just the rule in life. So this is why you can trust. Everything comes to you because you are ready and you can handle it. So you won't have this this big constellation. So you don't need that time. You know, you find that what meant, and do that and focus on that one thing, and then it's okay. And just don't go anywhere further. You would just take energy away from something that was already high in energy. You don't want to do that. Okay, so so all these 3 dynamics that you find in family constellations, they are a breach of the orders of love, and this is why they come up in a family constellation, because one of the descendants is suffering. Right. Okay, so today we are looking at reparations or atonement for my sins. So that sounds like a little bit a strange sentence somehow. But so we have to look, what are sins actually? And remember, when we talked in module 1 about it, it's a kind of a perception, right? Kind of a conditioning, personal conscience. It's a condition from your family system. And when you have been told you don't do that, although in other circumstances you might be told to do it, but in this family system you've been told not to do it, and you do it anyhow, then it's a sin. So a sin does not even need to be unjust or does not need to be bad. It just needs, it is observed as, experienced as bad, right? So that's a sin. And we do not understand sin without the context of guilt and ego. Because if I say I'm a sinner, that's ego talking.
Can I ask you, are all sins conditioning then?
Yeah.
Is there anything that would be considered a sin in the constellation system?
I would say for now we just say it's condition, morals.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easier to work with. There might be exemptions.
May I ask you, why did you choose the word sin? Would it be the same to say what are reparations for my shortcomings, for my faults, yeah, sin is quite a strong word. Is the one we want?
I think so. It's a translation from German, Sühne. Yeah, that's how it translates. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We want that. It's strong because it's felt so strong. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a dynamic and would not cause suffering if it's not felt strong. So somebody feels really strong about it. And why? Because somebody feels guilt. Yeah. And this guilt is embodied as a part of the ego. So it's identification with the guilt. That's actually a sin. This is why in Catholic in this how can I say, in this strict Catholic environment, you might hurt yourself for atonement from sins or something like that. You know, really bad things happening. You know. But if you wouldn't be in a state of ego, if you would be in a state of acceptance, you would say, life has unfolded like this. You know, who am I to judge that is good or bad? You know, it's just an expression of life and I'm in the midst of it and I have to accept it. You know, that's from a more mature spiritual point of view, what you would say. The more egoless state, but if you're in an ego state, you make it your sin. It's not a sin, it's your sin. So I need atonement or preparation for my sin. I have to pay off my sin. I have to pay for my sin, right? That's the dynamic. So the dynamic comes either because I'm not talking about you, but your client has done something which is not aligned with the family morals, or it's an entanglement with a person from the family system who has done it. And it's very often, or practically always, a murder of some sort. So somebody had to die in order to be felt as this sin that you have to atone for. And how do you atone for it? You get sick. You get really sick. You have a disease, often a fatal disease. You know, you kind of want to pay with your own life for the other life that has, you know, that somebody took somehow. So what is the healing word and the healing movement and the healing gestures in this dynamic? Anybody? Or you know the healing word?
It wouldn't be the healing word, but I suppose a start would be just to acknowledge what it is as it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. It's a yes. So what somebody who is entangled in the dynamic of preparations for my sin cannot do is acknowledging it. That's the problem. This person rather dies than acknowledging that that is what it is, that this has happened. For example, an abortion is always something that comes up in this dynamic, or most often comes up in this dynamic. You know, either that the client has aborted a child, or it is entangled with somebody from the family system who has aborted a child. You know, and they felt sick. They may don't get a child, or they may have a sick child. You know, somehow it's like black magic. They want to, you know, they want to exchange the bad, which is not healing at all. You can't do that. No, this is not the exchange life wants, or God, or anything. You know, that's not the point. So what is here is acknowledging that this has happened and saying yes to it. So, for example, I stay with the example of the abortion. If you have the client who is the mother of the aborted child and is finally able to look at the child, because you might never talk about it, might have never talked to anybody about it, or might have talked about it but never emotionally, you know, has always some emotional walls around this whole issue. You have a representative for the aborted child, you have a representative for the mother, and you see if the mother can say yes to the child. That would be the word of resolution. No? Might a bit work to come there, but then that would be it. To say, yes, I have killed you, aborted you. Bert Helling always wanted to be really, he said, you have to say I've murdered you. You know, and he was so strict with that. I'm totally fine if you say, yes, I have aborted you. Yes, I have killed you. I didn't allow you to live, or something like that. No. This yes, but you can then say, but I miss you, or I regret it, or whatever is the right word is very healing, you know. First the yes, and then probably a sentence like this that opens up emotionally more to the grief, you know, that is also in there in this situation. And then but then another yes to say, but it was the right decision at that time for me. Now, Shakti.
Can we say, I didn't allow you to incarnate instead of live? Because I felt, for me, live is like, living is spirit. Spirit is always living.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit is always alive, no matter.
Okay, so you have to, when you are facilitating a constellation and you have this situation and you ask the representative to say, instead, I didn't allow you to live, I didn't allow you to incarnate, you will see if that has the same effect. This is all phenomenologically work, you know, not theoretically. You look at it and you find out if it has the same effect. And if it has, it's great. It's lovely if you share it. And maybe it has not the same effect. Maybe it's about the life, like the physical life. So I can talk about that as well. What I often have in constellations is if there are multiple children. For example, a mother had, just as a matter of example, has had the first child aborted, the second child was a miscarriage, and then the third child was born, right? And I have quite frequently seen that this is all the same soul. So the soul of the aborted child came back. So what was it? Where were we?
The word sorry, can we say, is sorry ever appropriate? to
Normally not.
right. Okay.
You know, it's like sorry is a substitute of action. Like, you know, if there's something to do, do it. You know, it's kind of, oh, I'm sorry, you know, you hit somebody and you say I'm sorry instead of helping him up, or you know, you can help him up and say, are you okay? Can I do something for you? You know, but if you just say sorry, it feels a little bit like, oh, I've done my debt, I say sorry.
Right, right.
So it's often not appropriate.
And
Then
it's not equal either. It's saying you're better, you're right, I'm wrong.
Kind of, yeah, yeah. And then also you say it a lot too often in places where you don't need to be doing anything, you know. And then if you go back to the level of destiny, everything that happens has a reason, and it's not you alone. So you don't need to be really sorry for what happens, even if it really looks bad, you know. but you can sometimes you feel for the other person because it feels a little bit unfair, kind of, that, you know, something good happens to you and something better there, although it's part of destiny. You can always say, oh my gosh, I feel for you.
Right. So it'd be more appropriate to say, I feel your pain.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Let me see. Okay, I share the screen again. We just, if you're not falling asleep, we just extend by 10 or 15 minutes for all these problems here. Let's see. I was glad I could join the meeting again. I felt like, oh my gosh, maybe the meeting has ended without me or something like that. Okay. And what the healing word is acknowledging what it is a yes. Because what the dynamic is, if I'm in this dynamic, or if somebody's in this dynamic, it does everything else than acknowledging that. No, whatever it is a substitute for acknowledging it. Why? Because the pain is so hard to bear. No, let's say you have aborted a child. You know, it's painful, and you don't want to look at the pain. And if you're entangled with a person, it's always the same. It's just another step. So you either work with a client who has a direct experience, or you work with the entangled person to have that experience through the client, right? You understand? So it's the same dynamic. It's just one more step if it's an entanglement. So the healing movement is towards the person, the victim, so to speak, right? And integrate this missing child or this missing person into your family system and give it a place in your heart, and introduce it to your family and make it, you know, be part of it. However, I remember now when I talked, I had, I think Namshakti mentioned something about it. However, when I had in the constellation, when I had this aborted child, the miscarriage child, and then the child that was born, and in the constellation, it turned out it was the same soul who incarnated first in the first child who was aborted, then its second child who couldn't, you know, survive because it was physically weak, something, and then had a third chance to come up. There, you don't see this dynamic because there's no suffering. So maybe Namshakti, the word with "I didn't allow you to incarnate" is correct, if it really doesn't come through, you know. Because if you have this happening, then there is not this dynamic preparation or atonement for my sins, because it is felt as a sin because the soul has come through, right? So there are lots of variation that you will see in the actual situation that you are in then. Yeah. So nothing to overthink at the moment. just remember, if there's somebody who doesn't want to look at an obvious situation, the dynamic is preparation for my sins. If you like this term or not. In German, it's obviously different, but that's the translation. Or atonement for my sins. Yeah. So this dynamic is leading often to fatal diseases, to accidents, to suicides or suicide attempts, and actually the death of the entangled person. That's all preparation. And it doesn't stop here. As you know, death is not an end to nothing. So this energy of preparation for my sins is not dying with the death. It will be taken over by somebody else of the family system. So nothing is resolved with it. So there is no atonement for the sins because there is no sin. You understand? This is a misconception. That cannot happen. Okay, so we talked about it. It's either the person you're working with or a substitute, an entanglement with an ancestor. It is always, when it is an entanglement, it's a deep love for the person they entangled with. A very deep love. You will see that. And you have to acknowledge this love. You know, even if it feels not right, because why would this poor person go into death for somebody else? But that's the dynamic, and it's made, you know, it's out of love. You know, so you cannot say, oh, don't do that, don't look at this, or don't, you know, it's not your thing. They have to come to this conclusion themselves. With the healing words that are making distance, which you now know, would be something like, I honor you and your fate. But it has nothing to do with me. Right? Because you were not the one who has aborted the child, it was your ancestor. So the true atonement here is to look at the dead and realize that it was his or her destiny, and you look at it with love. That's the only atonement. The atonement is obviously not a disease or letting another child die or following into death. That's all not atonement. In this constellation, you are not finished until you find the real victim-perpetrator dynamic, right? So that's where you have to go. You have to find the way to come to the real victim and perpetrator, like the mother and the child in this case. So if it's an entanglement, the person you are working with said, oh, I never was pregnant, I had no abortion, nothing. And you think, wow, but it looks like this dynamic to me, yeah? So you know, okay, well, it must be entangled. Now you need to find the person that she is entangled with, another woman. Is it from the father, the mother's side, you know? And once you find this, then you need to work with the person she's entangled with, not with her. And then this person, so although this person doesn't want to look at the child, it has aborted a few generations before, but your client wants to look at the child, that doesn't heal. That's exactly the entanglement. So you, with the healing, with the words, with the powerful words of dynamics, you know, you need to make sure that the actual person who has aborted the child is looking at the child with love and is able to say the words yes to this. And then you will see that the client you are working with has a great relief, and the client can then say, I leave you with your faith and your destiny. Because it wouldn't be able to say that before, even if you ask. So in theory, you could say, oh, I just want to work with my client. I see an entanglement there. If my client can keep distance from it, then everything is okay. But that's not true. because the client cannot keep distance from it. And even if you would force it somehow, there could be another child coming down the line that takes over the entanglement because it's isn't solved. No, the victim perpetrator has never come to an agreement to look at each other and agree to the destiny they share, right? So this is why you cannot stop before you find the real victim and the real perpetrator. Okay, let's just see if we have gone through everything. So what is denied here is the relationship. If the perpetrator, let's say the mother, cannot look at the aborted child, it is denying the relationship to it.
So the goal for the victim perpetrator is that they see each other. They acknowledge each other. Is that correct?
Yeah. And they need to agree to their destiny. They need to say yes.
Oh, agree to the destiny, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They need to say yes. They need to be able to say yes. No. So what is denied is the relationship to the victim. So they're looking away from it. They cannot look at it. This is why another descendant is actually entangled with them, because this descendant can look at it, you know, for the perpetrator, for the mother. That is the entanglement, but it doesn't heal, okay? So when the entangled person is looking at the child with love, it doesn't heal. The perpetrator, the mother, has to look at the child with love and agree to what has happened. Otherwise, we would run out of work if that would heal, because that's what everybody does, you know. Okay. What needs to be acknowledged? The sin is forming a lasting relationship. Eye contact and acknowledging, not looking away, doing something good to honor the victims, also good, you know. So you can say, okay, I put, you know, I put some flowers up for you, or something, you know, something to keep this acknowledging alive, you know, without making it a new problem like a shrine that you are, you know, getting attached to, but something more natural. Often it helps to give this child a name. Is often something that really helps. You know, to acknowledge that it's part of the family and everything else. Oopsie. Okay. Perversion. So this, if your client doesn't do that, there can be, for example, also some not necessarily death or a fatal disease, but to live alone and suffer all the time, to not have partners and not have children, and you know, all these are signs of a dynamic preparation for my sins or atonement. So what heals is dedication, devotion, and commitment in any shape, way, or form, which is all a yes if you nail it down to the simple words. And if it's feeling guilt, it's never atonement, right? It is a substitute to do what's needed. You know, when someone says, oh, I feel so much pain, then you say, oh, you don't say, oh, yeah, that's good, because you've done something awful, you should feel pain. It doesn't matter pain or not pain, you have to look at actually the result of it and acknowledge it and let love flow in this situation, right? Okay. Wow, that was the last slide to share. Look at this. Okay, so we have probably 10 more minutes or 15 more minutes. Is there anything that came up that you want to discuss, or you want to repeat, or? There was a lot, eh? Mm.
I did have a question. I'm trying to remember what it was.
It'll come back before the training's
okay.
over.
I was just thinking, how about Namshakti? What did you say before? What we were wanted to look up at another time?
About my mother not breastfeeding and I not breastfeeding as well.
How is it if we do a constellation now
Sure.
and looking at that? Yeah. Okay. Are you all with us now, or too tired for that? Oh, everybody
with you.
okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Then,
okay.
so hang on. I stopped screen sharing. So that's that. Okay. So Namshakti, shall we? How do you want to tackle it? Now you're looking from it as a constellator as well. So would you rather look at yourself and your child, or you and your mother? Where's the power? Where do you feel the energy, the strong energy?
I think me and my child.
And I feel the power between you and your mother.
Sure, we can do me and my mother. Since my sisters, none of them breastfed either.
Yeah.
But my grandmother did, which is strange.
Okay. So let's. I think that's exactly what we do. We take your grandmother, your mother, and yourself. So you choose a representative.
So Kate, would you be me? Right?
Sure.
And Mariela, would you be my grandmother? And Ale, if you would be my mother.
And we might take Tracy as your sister.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let's take a couple of deep breaths. Connect with the field. Just by intent. Nothing special to do. And then you gently open your eyes. And then we start with the grandmother and the mother. So that's Mariella and Ale, right? Okay. Mariella, do you look at her?
Looking at her.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel fine.
Okay. Ale?
A little bit lost.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, what did you say?
Lost.
Lost.
How do you say mareada? Como
Dizzy.
Lost. You could say lost, dizzy.
Dizzy. Dizzy. This is my word.
Mm-hmm. like in a fog, like in a cloud, or just
Dizzy, like in the, like being seasick, like in the sea, dizzy, or how?
Yes.
Like nauseous, like sick.
Just feel like my head is turned around many times, you know, around my head.
Okay, so because this is not a family constellation, this is a training session. Yeah, I'm sharing my observations, obviously. So Ale, being the mother, is a child of Mariella, right? And the appropriate place of the child would to look at the mother, you know, with love, appreciation, warmth. Yeah. But the child is dizzy, distant, cannot look at the mother. That also means as a child, she cannot take from the mother. Because if you're not getting in a relationship, you cannot take as a child. So that means this child hasn't taken the love from the mother, means not the nourishments neither. So this child feels like there's nothing to give to her children. You would even come to the same conclusion if we wouldn't know from Nam Shakti that her mother hasn't breastfeeded, because you can see that. You can see it in her face. I see. Can you see that in her face?
Well, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. So if we look at, so Kate and Tracy, you are the children of her. Look
I have
at
some
her.
pain coming in my stomach, in and out.
Yeah.
It comes and it goes.
Okay. Tracy?
I'm really looking at my grandmother.
Yeah.
I don't really want to look at my mother. I feel like.
Very good. That is excellent. So now what I never talked about, what was also happening in the family constellation, is that when you have, you know, the stream of love and the nourishment which goes through each generation, right? You have extreme situations where you can get nourishment from the generation before. It is possible. Yeah?
Is that bad when that happens?
No, it's good. So there is situations when the child cannot get the nourishment from the mother because the mother is, for example, schizophrenic or something like that. You know, and then but the child is able to get the nourishment from the grandmother. You know, possible. It's not very often, but it's possible. This is a situation where this is maybe even possible. Right, so we try it out now. We try it out. So first of all, we try if Ale, the daughter, can make the movement towards the mother to nourishment. No, Ale, yeah. Please look at Mariella. Can you look at Mariella? I mean, can you see her?
I have to say it cost me. I don't know why, but it's
Okay. Don't force it. Just you know.
yeah. Feel like I need time or something like that.
Okay. So when somebody cannot look at somebody, you don't apply any words, right? Because the words can only come when the connection is there. Otherwise, the words wouldn't be received. No, this is why you always have to be sure that the person you want to work with, the representative, is able to look at the other one, right? Now, in this case, and because we don't want to extend it too much, what we do is now, and it's a lovely exercise, or we see if we can skip the mother and go and take the nourishment from the grandmother, right? So I asked Tracy, because Tracy was able to see Mariella. Tracy, look at Mariella and say to her, please.
Please.
Say to her, I need you.
I need you.
I need your love.
I need your love.
I need your nourishment.
I need your nourishment.
Please nourish me as your child.
Please nourish me as your child.
How's that for you?
It's lovely.
I
feel really warm.
How's that for you, Maria?
It's great. It's beautiful.
Okay, this works. That's lovely. So the same with Kate. See what happens there. Can you look at her?
Please. Please. I need you. I need your nourishment.
How's that for you, Kate? When you say that?
Yeah, better.
It's better.
Yeah, the pain is gone.
Say to her, I waited for that for so long.
I waited for that for so long.
See how Kate's face starts to shine? You know? It was, you could see it was a little bit hard to say those words. You know, it was not as easy as with Tracy. You know? Because there was emotion, there was so much emotion in there. So you have to express the emotion. I need you so much. You have to amplify. I need you so much. I was waiting for so long. You know, you're acknowledging what is, what you see. You have to say, and then everything comes into, you know, movement. Starts to roll, starts to move. Okay. How is that for you, Mariella?
Good.
Okay, now Tracy and Kate, I would like you to see yourself moving towards Mariella. Either standing up or on your knees or crawling or in the fetal position or in any way, shape or form, just going towards her. And deep breathing, and tell us if that's possible for you.
Feels much better to get closer.
It's easy for me.
Easy. Very good. So go as close as you are hugging each leg of her. You can hug your pillow. And then you feel how Mariella is putting one hand on each of your head. And then you deep breathe and get the nourishment and the love. Breathe it in deeply, 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 deeply. Very good. How's that for you, Mariella?
Good. I put my hands on their heads.
Very good. That's good. So now you see, look in Kate's face, you see the resolution, right? Everybody agrees? And same with Tracy. Tracy was closer already, but at Kate you can see the Vishnam Shakti, right? Now,
much better.
Very good. Now you're just staying in this energy and we're going back to the mother. Ale, has something changed?
I feel calm, peace.
She's still disconnected. Can you see that? As if she would not be part of it all. Did you not say your mother's very religious?
She is, and I think she suffers from depression.
Yeah.
But she's very religious,
Yes.
extremely. And my grandma actually raised us. My mom worked a lot, but like in any Latina family, the grandmother always lives with us. And my grandma basically cooked for us, raised us, washed our clothes, did everything while my mom worked.
So if you would go further, which we don't do in this constellation, if there would be a point to find that what means in your mother, which we won't, I will tell you why we are not doing that. We would actually, that would be one where I would probably put God in this place, in the play, representing. Because I think that would be giving her a focus point. Something that caught her attention. And we can work with a relationship, you know? That's kind of the field gives us in this example where I struggle to explain to you how that looks like. That's how it looks like. No. But why are now? Thank you. This is where you break up because you see the relief in your client, which was Nam Shakti, right? So that's it, right? Why we are not working with the mother has several reasons. First of all, it's not our place. She's not the client, right? She didn't come to the constellation. She has no problem from her perception. And we didn't need her for Nam Shakti and her sister to get the nourishment because they were able to get it from the grandmother. So although we feel like, oh, we should do something with her, you know, you have to stay away from this kind of emotions and always remind yourself of why are you there for, you know. Remember, it's not in order to constellate the mother of a child. Only the mother of a child can constellate for the child, not the child can constellate for the mother. It would give incoherent results and maybe causes a new entanglement even, or a new imbalance, a new suffering in the family. So we're staying away from that. It's not needed anyhow for the constellation. And we can now do something, and Nam Shakti can do that. You can look at Ale and you can say, I honor you and your destiny.
Do I say it? Oh, okay, me?
Yeah,
I honor
Ale.
I honor you and in your destiny.
Or your faith. Faith.
Or your faith. I honor
fate.
you.
Fate.
Fate. I honor you in your fate.
Yes. It's good for you, eh? Yeah. It's good for you. Yeah. Alice, anything changed for you? No.
Just
No, it's okay. We see it. Nothing has changed. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ale. That was very impressive. So you could see that clearly, right? Everything you could clearly see. Nothing that I told you was a surprise, right? Or was it? No. So the dynamic here, where the that was a classical interruption, like this rock in the river, you know, where the stream of love was interrupted, was by the mother of Nam Shakti, because for reasons we don't know and we are not entitled to look at, she wasn't able to nourish her children.
Thank you very much.
good night.
Thank
Bye.
Bye bye.